We created a deal-making platform that intermediates founders with funders and actually do the deal from A to Z.
So if we look at it on a macro scale, your entrepreneurs and SMEs, they create about 70% of jobs globally, contribute about 40% towards emerging economy GDP. So if we look at it from an economic and job creation perspective, your founders are everything if you want to stimulate economic growth. And without founders, you wouldn't have investors. There'd be nothing to invest into.
What advantages can you see in our little postage stamp of real estate on planet Earth?
Firstly, the people. There's something different.
Yeah.
There's energy there here. You can see the entrepreneurial spirit with the people we've dealt with. There's lots of trust that you already have. So you've got your trust network already. And then there's the altruistic support. The people we've spoken to connected us immediately.
Welcome to TEKEX Podcast number 3. We are back. We've got our event tomorrow, which is going to be TEKEX number 32. We've got a couple of our speakers with us here today. This podcast, TEKEX, doesn't happen because of without our amazing collaborators, Rathbones, PwC, and Digital Jersey, which the whole community is really thankful for that support. And also, we are looking for more sponsors for the podcast. We've got some exciting conversations happening on an international audience and international brands that might be coming on board, which is exciting, and some other conversations. But it'd be great to have some more local sponsors for this podcast, if you think it's of any value whatsoever. But we hope it is, and hopefully that our guests today are gonna be adding to that value and adding to the conversation, the TEKEX community. So welcome, Ben and AJ from Summit. And you're going to have to forgive me because I've got this habit of assimilating accents at any point in a conversation. So hopefully you won't hear a really bad Leo DiCaprio Blood Diamond South African accent come on. I apologize.
Let's hear it, Ed.
In advance.
You're going to give us a try.
Diplomatic community. Is that...
That's not bad.
It's not bad. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Welcome to Jersey, and so you're representing your business Summit. You're going to be on stage tomorrow, presenting that at our Jersey TEKEX, where we've got South Africa, but living in Netherlands.
Yeah, that's great.
So welcome. So how are you feeling about presenting on the TEKEX stage tomorrow?
Well, I think the TEKEX audience is probably a bit scared because I popped a message of me surfing on the group last night, and Ed told me that I look naked. So,
Radu, can we get a flash up of that image during the podcast, please? We've become famous now for the naked.
There we go.
The naked
South African surfing in Jersey. But it's awesome to be here. The people have been incredibly receptive, super friendly. Everyone's opening up as many doors as possible. So from AJ and I's side, it's been epic so far.
How beautiful is one, right?
Yeah, magic.
Great place.
Magic.
I hear it was about at least 6 foot peeling
6
offshore.
foot barrels. I got spat out. It was incredible. I mean, I'm coming back on a surf trip. Has to be done.
Yeah.
So.
Good man. AJ, first time in Jersey?
Yeah, no, amazing. The hospitality is great. Meeting you guys, the receptiveness, amazing. Nature. We went on a trip around the island yesterday. Had fun. Had a dip. No, it's lovely.
Amazing.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. There is, it's actually a fellow South African that took you around the island, wasn't it? Who's kind of launched their business here, an AI business.
AI business, yeah.
And there really is a thriving South African community here. So
shout out James and Claro.
James 4 and Claro.
Yeah.
Amazing business. Look it up. Claro.ai.
As far as I know,
I think
probably
we'll follow up. Look, let's start with what is Summit. If you can elevator pitch it from both sides, how you see it. It should hopefully be quite similar.
Yeah, it's actually going to be cool to
start with AJ this time.
Yeah, I think Summit was born from a M&A law firm. We helped clients to pitch and actually do the deals, realized that there was a huge disconnect in the market. We created a deal-making platform that intermediates founders with funders and actually do the deal from A to Z. So that's the essence of what Summit does. Ben, see if you can beat me on that.
Yeah,
should be taking some notes out here. Can you guys send me the recording afterwards?
Ben, your turn. Can you better that?
Let's see. In a nutshell, so our background's in M&A. We're representing founders and investors on both sides of the table, mostly in the private equity and venture capital space. And as AJ mentioned, sort of the way that deals are done today, it's incredibly slow, super inefficient, and archaic. I mean, we're in 2025 and deals are still done using Excel files, which is crazy, and multiple different disconnected data points. And I think largely the whole ecosystem of international investors and founders that need funding is so disconnected. So like a typical VC fund looks at about 1,000 deals a year, and at least 50% of those are not matched to their mandate. Another 30% are not investment ready. So you're sitting with huge inefficiencies in the market of doing deals. And that's why we built Summit, is to connect founders to international investors at scale and actually allow them to do the entire transaction. So it's not a matching platform where you and I meet and we go on a date via Tinder and then we go off the app. So our vision has always been to say matching is important. So matching the right founders to the right investor, but actually being able to do the deal, everything from an analysis to due diligence, to storing legals, to tracking progress, and actually money in the bank. So that's sort of why we built Summit.
And you know, the first time I looked at it, I could tell straight away this was something different. You know, I've been presented having founded TEKEX, and you know, its key tenet being around innovation and accelerating that. Certainly in our jurisdiction, I've been presented quite a few platforms that are either in the matchmaking space or the deal making space, and none of them, you know, they still felt quite in that old world. And you know, as soon as you sort of took me through the demo, I was like, right, now we're talking. And you know, from our perspective, fundraising is one vector of acceleration, and to really to build a innovative jurisdiction or community. And you know, so it's great to be kind of partnering and now be able to sort of offer Jersey and our other jurisdictions and partner network something that really feels far more frictionless, far more relevant. You're absolutely right. I think in 2025 we should be able to have that environment. And look, I mean, so back to you, AJ. You know, what you're doing is quite ambitious. You know, even in the name Summit, you're sort of pitching it right at the top there. I guess sort of, you know, going back to your history, M&A, there's a bigger why, a bigger purpose. What drives you, and why now with Summit? You know, I think you've got a great vision and forecast. It'd be great to learn more about that.
Yeah, I think I started about 25 years ago as an M&A lawyer, South African and UK qualified, and starting to help scale-ups right through my career as a lawyer, investor. And then about 3 years ago, we were doing a M&A deal, multinational transaction. And I was actually saying to Ben, you realize we advising our clients to scale their businesses, but we haven't scaled. I'm doing this deal now the same way I did it 25 years ago, and so are my colleagues. So it was really time for us to change the way we think. So we really went out there and challenged our own thoughts and surveyed the private capital markets, identified the bottlenecks, and then went onto the drawing board and said, okay, how can we solve this problem? And that's where Summit was born, basically identifying a real problem we had deep insight and knowledge of. At that stage, we worked with about 3,000 global funds, and we had to reach out to them manually, and it was just ludicrous to try to do that. So it had to be disrupted, and that was the birth of Summit in essence.
I'm just going to pull on that thread a bit as well. So I think it's the difference between somebody on a career path and a founder. Like you were a lawyer in the M&A space, but then you spotted this problem. So you're sort of using a different neural creative part of your, your brain to want to innovate and become a founder. And I think, to me, it's that combination. I think quite often you see people in career paths who, they'll continue that, certainly maybe in the legal space. And actually what you did was sort of cite a sort of a quagmire of efficiency that you wanted to implicate. And I don't know, I think that's a sign of a founder who wants to solve those kind of problems into their own businesses?
Yeah, I think absolutely that. And we've worked with founders all our lives. My full career been when he joined me. So we understand the founder problem. And today we are a founder. So we've built Summit. We've raised on Summit. We raised within 3 months 70% of our ticket. And actually used our own platform. And we're iterating, we're learning every single day. So there's so much to learn. And that's why we realize we have to be creative and have to bring in great minds along us. And we're 4 founders, actually. 2 of us are here. Exciting journey for us.
Yeah.
And maybe just to touch on the purpose side of things. So if we look at it on a macro scale, your entrepreneurs and SMEs that create about 70% of jobs globally, contribute about 40% towards emerging economy GDP. So if we look at it from an economic and job creation perspective, your founders are everything if you want to stimulate economic growth. So to sort of tie it into Jersey, the way that we see Summit in a nutshell is you've got incredible founders that can access funding, but it's super difficult to scale the way that you can access these international investors. So for just a jurisdiction like Jersey, the thing that we're really excited about with you is how do we expose the incredible founders here to international investors at scale?
Yeah.
And from our side, always really keen to back the founders that are actually creating the impact, creating the jobs, stimulating economies. And without founders, you wouldn't have investors. There'd be nothing to invest into.
Yeah. And that's, you wouldn't know this, but it's a very topical statement there. Last week or the week before, we had an IOD event, great organisation, Institute of Directors, and the question was the future of Jersey economy. And one of there were numerous sound bites of relevance, but one of them was, we need more entrepreneurs. And that statement was correct. And, we're still finding, navigating as a jurisdiction, what are our conditions to enable that. And as I said, fundraising is one of those vectors. And it's great to be able to discuss that today, hopefully with positive implications. And I hope, tomorrow and this podcast, we can begin to expose this narrative. And part of TEKEX as well was to help people understand and expose the universe of fundraising. It's not like there's a business studies module anywhere that I know of that is like about fundraising. It's sort of this paradigm of finance and commerce and entrepreneurialism that kind of just happens.
Yeah.
And
I think really exciting to sort of work with you on
and I think Summit is not only fundraising. Fundraising is only the initial part. It is actually building your business on an infrastructure that we create with information and availability that you can use Summit to actually grow your business. You can exit your business at a later stage. You can get co-funders on. So it's much more than just fundraising. So we're actually busy developing products to add value to the businesses themselves to remain on Summit going forward.
Yeah, post-transaction.
Post-transaction.
A to Z as you described. You could be there till Series D.
Yeah, so the heartbeat of Summit is actually our data room.
Yeah.
So it's an interactive AI-enabled data room that can help you to build your business. You can interrogate your own data room. Help me to create a cash flow forecast. What are my risks? So those are tools we're busy building on. So this is just the start. So the value that we create, I think, could contribute definitely towards your businesses.
And we've got, I think, sort of three businesses already in there. I think Clearmind, an amazing local early stage business with Matt Johnson in the mental health space. Musket, who took the stage about 6-8 months ago, which is great, and we'll be giving some updates on their news recently because they're going great guns. Dynaval coming on board, just an amazing deep science business. She also took the stage and talked about her kind of semen analysis technology, amazing business, and already, because I get to see, nowhere near the numbers the VCs are looking at, but I get to see, at least 6 or 7 decks a month. And it's overwhelming, especially sort of TEKEX isn't my main business. It is part of our group of businesses, but it can be overwhelming. And I've learned so much, but I'm no absolute expert in the deal and making the deal and formulating the deal. So I want to talk back to AI, because what was really fascinating on the onboarding for a business was uploading your deck, and then your AI system just immediately started to sort of find where the gaps were in your deal. So maybe that onboarding piece and how AI is really driving Summit's evolution, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's good to speak about our experience with the funding world and actually raising for clients, but also for ourselves. And so from an onboarding perspective, you have tons of funds out there that use different CRMs and different forms all the time. So you've got Google Form, you've got Typeform, you've got all these forms that you've got to fill out. So if you're a founder, you reach out to 50, 60 investors for your raise, depending on your stage. You've got to fill out 50 to 60 different forms. And they all are similar questions, but you still got to type everything out. It still takes 20, 30 minutes to complete an application to one fund. Now you got to apply to 60. So in a nutshell, what we said is, you already have, Mr. Founder, you have all the information we need already.
Or Mrs. Founder.
Sorry?
Or Mrs. Founder.
Yeah, or Mrs. Founder, exactly, 100%. So founder, you have all the information, and from there, just upload your deck. Our AI will go through the deck and populate the profile on your behalf.
It's great. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point for me, having seen other platforms. I was like, immediately you can see the frictionless efficiencies that had been made just from the idea of onboarding. And the other thing I think, there's various degrees of maturation of going into a fundraise. You're seeing them really sophisticated. You're seeing people who've clearly been advised to ready to go to everything in between. And the good bit of the everything in between is, in a way, something that can also prompt people to understand what are you going to need to go into a raise. It's a brave position or a brave universe to be entering, going into the fundraising world. And there are some binary aspects that need to be in place. And I think, in some ways, I love the fact that Summit is like projecting and promoting the idea of educating people, which again is one of TEKEX's key things is, how do we go about growth?
Yeah, and that's a super focus at the moment, is to help with not only the onboarding, but actually the funder preparation. So when we used to do this manually, it can take you up to 3 months easily to get a founder ready. So the intention of the onboarding is, what we did is we actually took data of 3 to 5 years where our clients pitched to small funds to actually the World Bank. We combined the data into the questions, and sort of that will take you through a process which you've gone through to get your funder ready, so you know exactly where you are. Next phase now with AI is we're busy implementing assistants that will actually guide you through the process to say, well, financial model, what is required, what I need to put in, or what investment instrument should I use? If I go to Europe, is it a SAFE? Is it a subscription, an advanced subscription agreement? And to advise them to be more successful. And we're actually going to use the data. So if you're on board, we can say to you, well, the average ticket size in Jersey actually is £478,000 at the moment. If you go higher, your success rate would be lower. So this is the sweet spot. This is your stage where you are at the moment. So those are things that will come through to actually add value to the founders.
And I think there's, I think in every industry there's sort of this dark artery of jargon, right? Branding. We've got our own lexicon of verbiage, and so does law, and so does fundraising, right? Yeah. It's got more acronyms than I've ever experienced. It's got more, Series A. There's all these terms. I wonder if there's like a space, it could be AI driven around Summit education, that is purely for even earlier stage. Just be a great marketing funnel as well, I imagine, just to help people navigate, because I think some of the realization, and maybe it's Jersey, we're Guernsey, we're less advanced in this space, perhaps, albeit at the more entrepreneurial stage, perhaps. I know this would be really useful, having this sort of educative piece.
And fundraising is super daunting as well. So I was speaking to a founder yesterday, and you get a shareholders agreement, and now you're raising money because you don't have money. So now you've got to pay a lawyer to spend 10, 15 hours advising you on this. What are the terms you should look out for? What should you potentially get an opinion on? And they're going to charge you extra for that. So from our side, we're saying, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Founder and investor, if you quickly want to scan a legal agreement or scan a data room and figure out what does this clause mean? What is a liquidation preference? What is a cap, a floor, a discount? You speak about all these jargon terms that are always thrown around that are supposed to be known. But a lot of the time, especially if you're early stage, you have no idea what they actually mean. So from our side, got a lot of data on our AI components, which we can start to feed to founders, but also to the investors as well.
And also to help the lawyers. So we've got a full program that we're running to make them more efficient. So the future in Summit is you'll be able to request Summit to prepare a document for, say, a subscription. That will go to the lawyer, because you'll still need lawyers to help you, but it will make his process more efficient. So we're creating a database for lawyers to put their agreements on within a secure state, so that the lawyer will receive the agreement, the questionnaire, plus they already drafted an agreement. So the efficiencies of that is just increasing. And the end game is obviously to get money flowing much quicker with less friction.
Yeah. So we're going to sort of, a lot of the audience as well are founders, and so we're going to sort of try and pull on those threads a bit. But I mean, jump into www.Summit.Deals and contact TEKEX as well to learn more on that. But I'd like to sort of speak a bit around like proximity, South Africa based, Netherlands based, and like how does, it's really easy to say, in today's world you can do anything anywhere, but certainly with founding you want that human touch. How do you manage that dynamic? I mean, you very clear you've got a close relationship, but
we come to Jersey to do that.
Yeah,
there we go. Spend time.
Hey, there's no better place, right?
It's been a challenge, to be honest. It's not been easy. I moved to the Netherlands with my family 3 years ago. Our other co-founder, John Campbell, did the same. And then we've got the two founders in South Africa with a full development team there, appointing another developer in the Netherlands. It's not been easy. We've introduced our daily rucks, which is actually great. So it's half an hour every day. We just chit chat, drink coffee, banter a bit. We've got the tech stand-ups on a daily basis, weekly meetings. So it has to be a concerted effort to make it work and to keep on communicating. And we're good mates. We have casual conversations as well. So that at least is my experience. I don't know about you, Ben.
Yeah, I think remote is tough. It comes with its perks, and it also comes with its cons. So it's been awesome for us to spend time here in Jersey together, because we went on exploration of the island, Gory Castles and Catherine's. We went surfing, and there's all these little moments where you're in an environment where an idea sparks. AJ and I are sitting right next to each other, chat about this. How could we structure this with the platform or this customer, whoever it may be? So we spoke to someone and they spoke about serendipitous moments yesterday. And the difficulty with being remote is you don't have serendipitous moments. It's very much, I need to have a call because we need to sort out a problem, or we need to discuss a strategy or whatever it may be. So I think the difficulty with remote is how do you create serendipitous moments?
That's such a good point. And I think, I struggle with video calls. I feel like, I'm very much in person. That's where you can really get to the nub of either problems or the emotional connection, the chemistry, I guess. Just keep pushing on this. So the strapline is a place where deals live. What, so maybe an open question, and jump in whoever wants to answer. What does that practically and emotionally mean for, say, a founder and an investor?
So just to understand the question, so you said Summit's a place where deals live. What does that mean?
Yeah, obviously that's your line. I mean, how does that then reflect on your target audience? What does that mean for them?
Yeah, well, I guess from a founder perspective, as AJ mentioned, sort of your data room and your fundraising process. Currently, a lot of founders just don't have a fundraising process, which is why deals take 6 months, 8 months, 12 months to close. So what we built on Summit is the ability for a founder to continuously be ready to raise throughout their rounds, from pre-seed right the way through to private equity exits. So how we see it is a founder can onboard to Summit in less than 3 minutes now. So we spoke about the AI onboarding. Took a founder previously about 20 to 25 minutes to complete. That's now 2 to 3 minutes. From there, they can build their data room, and they can get the entire raising process set up in less than a day, and then continuously be ready to raise throughout every single consequent round. So that's the founder side. On the investor side, they're able to apply to access the deal flow. That takes under 2 minutes. And then from there, they constantly get a new inflow of deal flow from across the globe. So at the moment, we're sitting at about 60 businesses raising $240 million across 16 different countries currently. And on the investor side, we're sitting at about 120 investors managing just over $9 billion. So there's investors from all over the world: US, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the same for the businesses. So what does that look like for an investor? Get access to new deals at all times, but they can also use the technology as their own tool to manage all their own deals from their private networks. And that's something that we learned in the beginning, which is one of our mistakes, was we built marketplace first. So as an investor, you could access the deal flow. But Ed, you've got trusted relationships, and you would definitely say, I'm going to trust your mate who you've been mates with for the last 20 years, that's sending you deal flow constantly. You're going to look at those deals a lot more than you would a marketplace that you didn't know when we just launched. So it was all about trust. How do you build trust? How do you build community? So now we've got the marketplace where you get new deals, but as an investor, you can also process all your own deals privately on Summit now as well.
And I think I fed you the question. You got to that word trust straight away, and I think I'm pretty sure you're going to get some of those questions tomorrow night around trust. I quite understandably, it sort of goes back to that in-person versus digital experience, and our jurisdiction is built on trust. Our success is built on trust, both in both its definitions. And so, I guess maybe back, what does security, diligence, governance, all risk, all these things that I'm sure are going to be thrown at you tomorrow night in the questions. You really have to engineer something of this dynamism with all those factors in play.
Yeah, I think it.
And I get sorry to interrupt again, but I imagine your legal background, it is going to be that on the forefoot.
Yeah, if you had to ask me what's the most important thing of any deal, I would use just one word, and that's trust. Because trust increases the speed of any transaction. As you increase the speed, you increase the probability of success. So the core of Summit is trust. And how do you create trust? So typically, if I had to come to you and ask for funding, you would say, well, fine, show me what you have. And if my business is well structured, my documents are in place, I've really applied my mind to things I had to apply, I provide that to you, and then you will trust my competency. Followed on that, you need to start to trust me. Summit will not replace that. So it's not built to replace the human interaction. It's built to optimize that and to increase the speed of trust. And that is the essence. So if I had to share my private deal with you or with Ben, you would go in and say, well, they really know what they're talking about. So I can trust their methods. I can trust them to go one step further. And then the whole deal pipeline is built to create transparency. So if you're on a deal, as a founder, funder, or deal maker, advisor, you've got a top-down view of exactly what's happening. So it increases the trust, increases speed, increases probability.
It's great. Jumping around a bit, but I want to talk about, I remember we had an online call and you were sitting in a hub, innovation hub in South Africa. Yeah. And my question is, what are those sectors like? You're in a hub with some investors, some startups. Is it pretty thriving in South Africa?
Yeah, I think Cape Town specifically, they call Cape Town the tech capital of Africa. One, it's an incredible place to live. So you actually see a lot of Europeans and foreigners that come to live in Cape Town for 3 to 6 months of the year, good summer, and then come back on some of the sites. So sort of that swallow effect. So there's some really great investors on that side. There's some incredible funds that have been built. And I mean, looking at it from a macro perspective again, Africa as a continent is incredibly nascent when it comes to VC, private equity is more mature. But in the VC world, like, there are these innovation hubs that are popping up, but we've actually only been around properly in a formal sort of sector way for about 15 years from a venture capital perspective. So it's still really early days. There's still your typical problems like regulation between different markets. So people see Africa as a country, not a continent. They don't realize that there's all these little nuanced regulations per country. So everyone thinks, oh, I can expand into Africa. Well, you've got to expand into a country within Africa and then expand throughout the different countries. So point is, with what's actually happening on that side, there's incredible tech being built. We are going to have the youngest population on the planet in the next 10 years. Digital penetration rates are really high. So connectivity, you've got a massive market that can now connect to the internet, which means that if you're building a tech solution that's solving a real problem, it's incredibly scalable. And depends what type of tech, because then there's also regulation. So we were speaking about health tech, which is heavily regulated in Africa and difficult to scale. But I mean, you've seen some of the fintech players in Africa that have scaled really, really nicely. Fintech and payments. You've got your mobile money like M-Pesa, which is solving an incredible problem where you have someone living in a village. They would typically have to catch a bus to go to a bank, draw cash, go into town, give that cash in person to their kid at school, whereas now they can just send it over text. So typically that process was going to cost them $10, $15 just to get their child a $20 note. It doesn't make any sense. So you're solving real problems.
And I think from UK perspective and Jersey, specifically in Guernsey, we were talking loosely about why there's quite a strong relationship between the two nations. Culturally, I think there's a lot of similarities and drive, and time zone is just great as well. I think there's lots of reasons to continue to build the bridge. And I think I was talking about an event in London, Jersey Finance recently put on, and they were expressing the same thing. And what about Netherlands?
Yeah, I think that's
good innovation sector.
Yeah, amazing innovation sector, and actually that's the reason why we've moved to the Netherlands. Time zone, language. There's not a big language barrier, and the work ethics, similar work ethics, and then from an innovation perspective, an incredible innovative country. Lots of innovations come from there. And conservative in spending, I would say, which is not a bad thing. But a huge drive towards innovation. And then obviously European Union security, IP protection, very similar to the UK. So it's much of the same.
This is going to be a difficult one for you because you've only been here under 24 hours. But one big topic, and we referenced IOD, the future Jersey economy. One big topic is, what is the Channel Islands diversification play? And from your limited experience here and your optics on what's happening here, I've got my own perspectives on it, having sort of run TEKEX now for sort of 4 or 5 years. But what advantages can you see in our little postage stamp of real estate on planet Earth?
Yeah, I think with our extended 48 hours experience on the island, firstly the people. There's something different. There's energy there. You can see the entrepreneurial spirit of the people we've dealt with. There's lots of trust that you already have. So you've got your trust network already. And then there's the altruistic support. The people we've spoken to connected us immediately. So the connectedness that they want to advance, and it's the altruistic. And I think that's a perfect recipe for a success. Then location-wise, close to the UK, and then you have the advantages of the island and the beautiful nature around it. So I think it's a top place to build businesses.
Yeah, even to live. So I'll answer in a second, but I wanted to ask, do you know what portion of your economy tourism contributes to?
Oh, you should know that, Radu. You're like a hospital. It's 2.
I think.
So Radu has a podcast in the hospitality sector, don't you?
Okay.
Awesome. So he does a podcast here with restaurant owners, cafe owners. You what as low as sort of 2-3%?
I think he's one number.
I can hear Marcus Calvani.
I might be wrong, but I think it's around that.
Yeah, I mean, why'd you ask the question actually?
I was just wanting to say I would come here on holiday.
It's
So
very low.
We have the finance industry as our real strength, as you can expect, for all the great reasons, and tourism is also really consistently, our kind of really viable sector. And you've experienced why you've come at a good time, and the restaurants here are magnificent, and they sort of help maintain that buoyancy of economy, because it's all very good having this powerhouse of an industry if it's not kind of supported by the other sectors, which it does. But the reason I asked that question, it's such a hotly debated topic, this diversification. What is it's the four-legged horse? What could our other legs be?
I would say, so obviously AJ mentioned people, you mentioned the place, the tourism, and a few other factors. I would say that there's a lot of, from my limited knowledge and time spent here, there's a lot of sort of offshore sort of post-box structures and trusts that are set up here, which is great. But I think from an IP perspective, at least in Africa, IP oftentimes is, call it trapped in Africa. It's difficult to raise funding if your IP is in Africa. So I'd say if you guys had a IP sandbox where you made it incredibly easy for African countries and founders from emerging economies to store IP here, to move over here, to actually build businesses from here, and not just use the jurisdiction as a sort of a structure, but actually bring their families over, have proper substance here, and I mean, make it incredibly attractive. Where if I want to build a tech company and base myself here, what are the IP incentives? Because my big costs will be developers. So if I can reduce those costs, we look at the UK, the Netherlands, they've got a few incredible programs that they run. So if you're building IP there, you're incredibly incentivized. So I'd say that would be something interesting to look at, is have an IP sandbox where anyone that's building a tech company or company with IP can easily offshore their IP or internationalize it to this jurisdiction, move their families over here, and actually build a business from here.
You've got an amazing IP law firm over here, Spoor Fisher.
Spoor, yeah, we know them,
And they service the continent very well. So we'll get onto them. They're a client of ours as well. So
there we go.
We'll get speaking to them. It's amazing. We're going to start kind of getting to conclusion. Hardest bit of being a founder?
Focus. I would say there's so many things to try and figure out, from fundraising to building product to managing people to scaling and getting distribution. Where do you focus? So I didn't think that would be the hardest thing about being a founder.
Podcast,
in all honesty.
Jersey.
So,
and you?
Priority.
Yeah.
Same thing. Where do you focus, and when do you focus on a specific thing, and how do you prioritize that? Because at the basics, you cannot be a founder if you don't have grit. You need to be innovative, and those things are common, but where do you prioritize? And I think it's sort of the wisdom around in the ecosystem to advise, to say, we've been down this path. We think that would be a good focus, because you sort of get fixated on your own solution, and to get perspective to prioritize, I think, is the main thing for us.
Yeah, and I think it's isolated and lonely at times. I mean, AJ and I are great friends now. We've been working together for a long time, so it's not as lonely, but we speak to founders every day. And you oftentimes feel very isolated because you're running out of money, or have run out of money, but you're still trying to pitch this vision and raise this funding from investors, and you got people to pay, and you got a product to build, and you got a debt facility that's run out, and it sort of feels like the world's imploding, because this is also, it's your baby. Founders
There's
are always
something
so
in
emotional.
the solidarity of getting together as founders, for sure, which is again part of TEKEX. When that self-doubt creeps in, what's the thing that you can do to knock yourself out of that?
Surfing.
There
Naked in Jersey. I would say it's your community. When you feel super isolated and really down in the dumps, it's like, AJ, this is how I'm feeling. This is what we're struggling with. What are your thoughts here? Whether it's personal, whether it's business, it doesn't matter. It's your community. It's your team.
Relationships. trusted relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a magic wand, and you can put it on. You can use your magic wand on Summit.
Yeah.
What right now is the one thing you would magic wand into Summit, other than being on the TEKEX stage?
Yeah, of course. Magic wand from a product perspective, or just general?
Yeah, whatever.
Would magic wand that our a roadmap, which continues to grow every single day, is just fully developed, and we can just focus on distribution. Exactly. I think I would say there's that, but then also scaling globally. It's difficult to focus, and it's sort of magic wand. This is the perfect pathway. These are the exact jurisdictions that you need to focus on, and this is how you grow and scale.
It's almost like the victim of your own success in a way. Is like actually what you've built is ubiquitous. Might be a bit extreme, but actually the deal is not dissimilar wherever you are. The process, and so that's both the success and actually what have we got here?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your magic wand, AJ?
I think spotlight. Where to focus and where to put our energy in.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have any genies in Jersey yet, with any ones out here, we got time on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay. Podcast recommendation. Your one podcast recommendation doesn't have to be business focused, but what's the one thing you listen to inspire you?
20 VC by Harry Stebbings. It may be a bit generic, but I absolutely love it. He interviews incredible founders, incredible investors, and the insights that you get from people that you'd never usually be able to interact with in an everyday room. So
Harry, is it?
Harry Stebbings.
Should we tag him?
20 VC. We'll tag him. Harry Stebbings, 20 VC podcast to watch.
You've got 3 guests.
Yeah, I echo that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
and it's also just real. It's raw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not super scripted. He swears.
Mine
he speaks
isn't scripted.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, can you show them your notes?
Yeah, I mean, it's
hardly scripted.
Butterflies from my son's pad.
What podcast would you recommend besides for this one, Ed?
I guess Lex Friedman.
Yeah.
I'm fully into sort of
very good. Yeah.
Psychology, and I mean. Yeah, I think Lex Friedman is my go-to. I mean, some of
the
exceptional mad stuff around neuroscience and a couple of the. So, I mean, it's actually a good question because one of the factors for TEKEX is that fascination of as a community, what can we galvanize around? What can we get behind as an industry for Jersey? We'll always support. The finance industry will always support the tourists. We're really proud of our islands, both Guernsey and Jersey. But I'm fascinated by that, and some of the businesses that we've spoken to around neural health and health. We're looking at that as a really viable sector, and there's a lot of people and a lot of really incredible innovators that are beginning to cluster here and looking at our beautiful island. It's very safe. You've got an amazing populace to look at trialing health innovation. So part of that podcasting is because of some of the businesses that we are clustering now that could really begin to answer some of those challenging questions and threats that do emerge.
And also maybe to zoom out a bit, not just on the businesses itself, but the actual solutions. And what that can bring solutions for. I think it's just not only focused on finance, but if you focus on neuroscience and solutions that can advance health, that's amazing.
For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of Jersey people would say, there's this phrase, Radu, you can probably agree, like we punch above our weight. For a small bit of land, we've enabled quite a puffed out chest status, and we've got to remain humble in that too. But the appetite for progress, as you've sort of expressed as well, having been here, is there's real keenness to connect, and I think we need to maximize harnessing that trust, that proximity of relationship with that appetite for innovation and pace, and start to align all those vectors. Fundraising, acceleration being one of those vectors, and then capitalize on that proximity relationship. I'd say so. exciting times. I mean, you know, the inception of TEKEX journey, I had no idea that we'd end up, you know, meeting amazing founders from various parts of the world. And, you know, I think on behalf of the community, thanks for making the trip to come and present. I look forward 100%. To welcome you both on stage tomorrow night and live in Guernsey and Jersey. Thanks to Radu, as always. Thanks to our collaborators, Rathbones, PwC, Digital Jersey, and anyone else who wants to come and
join
help the TEKEX mission.
And thanks for the opportunity. It's really great, and we love the energy, hospitality. Yeah, thank you very much.
Ed, maybe end off on a question on my side.
Yeah.
What do you say is the future for Jersey?
A lot of the same. Like we're probably in the same breath as we've got that topic of debate. What is it? We also have to take stock that it's incredibly privileged, successful place to have your business and to live. You know, we need to celebrate that together a bit better. You know, nowhere else in the world. Yeah, I'm not smug in delivering this privilege, but like, you know, do I get to sort of cycle my son through the lanes and he can wave to all the farm animals, drop him off, and be at my desk 10 minutes later, having just driven across beautiful seaside.
And had a Dorney surf, of course.
And have a Dorney surf. And, you know, Potting Shed, our main business, supports the finance industry, and economically that ecosystem really works. And these amazing restaurants, like, I'm not sounding smug here, but you, in positions of comfort, you also have to take time to
challenge yourself,
challenge and innovate. You know, I think Joe Rogan, will tag him as well. His very binary way of saying, you know, and forgive the gender aspect of this, but you know, hard men create easy times.
Yeah.
Easy times create easy men. Easy men create hard times. And so the cycle continues. Yeah. And I go, same goes for women and everyone else. But the essence there is that we're not in easy times here in Jersey, but we've afforded ourselves a very, very great place to live. And you could argue that it is easy times because the economy is so great. So you never stand still. And what is next for Jersey? You know, I do think there are some particular strengths that we can look at, be it health, be it you know, some of the finance industry and collaborating with them in innovating there as well. So, and I think as well we've got a possible entertainment innovation, you know, filming here and creating, you know, maybe a you know, green screen studio, and then you can look at the IP infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then we've also got this incredible backdrop as Bergerac is just, that probably means nothing to you, does it?
No.
Bergerac it was a super successful 80s detective series, which was a really successful, it's just being relaunched. And, you know, we used a lot of our local talent to enable that to be refilmed, and it's gone off the charts. So that's, you know, that's going to be a great advert.
Jersey to the moon.
Jersey. Yes. That was a monologue of an answer, apologies, and pretty fluffy, but there we go.
Well, let's take Jersey to the moon together.
Let's do it. Chaps.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.